Here's the truth about real estate that YouTube doesn't want to sell you. Most real estate fortunes were not built by flipping. They were built by buying a rental, holding it for 30 years, and doing nothing dramatic. No BRRRR gymnastics, no hard money loans, no recycle your capital every 90 days. Just buy a decent property, place a tenant, and let time do the work. Buy and hold is the most boring strategy that quietly makes millionaires while everybody else is chasing the sexy ones. In 2026, with the DSCR loans getting or letting W 2 professionals qualify based on the property income instead of personal income, buy and hold is more accessible than it's ever been. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to walk you through the complete buy and hold playbook, what it is, and why it works. I'm going to give you honest math, the tenant risk that nobody really talks about, the states where landlords actually have rights, and when to hire a property manager versus self-manage. I'm Robert with Open Lane Funding. Let's get into it. Buy and hold is exactly what it sounds. You buy a rental property in a rentable condition, place a qualified tenant, and hold it long term 20, 30 years, sometimes the rest of your life. Three things separate buy and hold from the other strategies that we've covered. One, there's no rehab. You buy properties that are already in rentable or near rentable condition, maybe minor cosmetic updates, but no gutting the walls, no permits, no contractors. If the property needs significant work, that's more of a fix-to-keep or a BRRRR type situation, but not a buy and hold. Two, no refinance dependency. The BRRRR needs a cash out refi to work. Fix-to-keep needs a rate and term to work. But buy and hold does not depend on any refinance to function. You just buy it with a DSCR loan. You close and you're done. If rate drops later and a refinance makes sense, great. But the strategy works without it. Three, it's genuinely passive, or at least the closest thing to passive that exists in real estate. Once the tenant is placed and the property manager is running it, most buy and hold investors spend 1 to 2 hours per property per month on ownership tasks. Not zero, but dramatically less than any other strategy. The trade-off is speed. Buy and hold is slow. You're not stacking flip profits. You're not recycling capital every 12 months. You're compounding wealth over decades. The people who win at buy and hold are the ones who understand that the slow is the feature, not the bug. Now, buy and hold works because four things compound simultaneously on the same property. Most investors focus on one of them. The wealthy investors know that all four things are working at once. Engine one, you have cash flow. Monthly rent minus mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, and management. In 2026, a well underwritten DSCR deal, this is typically $150 to $500 per month per property. That's modest, but it's real. It's monthly. And guess what? It grows over time. Engine two, principal paydown. Every month, your tenant pays down your loan balance in year one on a $250,000 mortgage at a 7.25%. You're paying roughly about $2,400 in principal. Your tenant is buying you a portion of the asset every single month. By year 15, that same monthly payment is paying down roughly about $9,000 per year of just principal. Principal paydown accelerates as time passes. This is a silent building, equity building. Engine three is appreciation. Long-term U.S. real estate appreciation averages 3 to 4% annually across most markets. On a $350,000 property compounding at 3.5%, the property is worth $700,000 in 20 years without you doing anything. And that's not guaranteed, right? Some markets outperform, some markets underperform. But averaged across long holds and diversified markets, appreciation is a reliable long-term wealth engine. Engine four is tax advantages. Depreciation deducts roughly about 9% or $9,000 per year against your income on $250,000 of building basis. Now, cross segregation can accelerate that. The mortgage interest is deductible, repairs are deductible, and when you eventually sell, 1031 exchanges let you defer the capital gains indefinitely. The tax code favors long term rental real estate uh, holders more than any other asset class. And if you add all four of those engines together, and a buy and hold property producing $300 per month of cash flow is often generating $15,000 to $25,000 per year of total return. Now, that's also when you account for the paydown, appreciation, and the tax savings. Now, that's a 10 to 15% annualized return on your invested capital, which beats almost every other asset class over a 20-year hold. It also beats most stock market investments as well. Now, here's why buy and hold is more accessible in 2026 than it ever has been. DSCR loans. A DSCR loan qualifies you based on the property's income, not your personal income. You do not need tax returns. You do not need W-2s. You do not need pay stubs. The lender looks at the projected rents, divides it by the projected debt service, and if the ratio is above 1, the property qualifies. This is a massive unlock for two groups of investors. Group 1, W-2 professionals with high income and high debt to income ratios. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, sales professionals, high salary, but often carrying student loans, primary mortgages, car payments. Conventional lending is going to cap you at 45 to 50% on your debt to income. And most high earners hit that ceiling after 2 or 3 properties. Now, DSCR ignores that personal debt entirely. You can buy up to 10 rentals in 1 year if all the properties cash flow. Group 2, self-employed investors and business owners. Real estate investors, contractors, small business owners, anyone whose tax returns show low taxable income after write-offs. Now, conventional lending punishes you for these legal tax optimization, but DSCR does not. The property qualifies on its own merits. The trade-off is your rate and the down payment. But DSCR rates in 2026 are actually running roughly about 100 to 150 basis points above conventional. The minimum down payment is typically around 20%, sometimes 25%, but you pay for flexibility. But for most investors, building a rental portfolio, that trade-off is worth it many times over. Now, I'm going to take a quick pause, comment turnkey below, and I'll send you the buy and hold underwriting worksheet, which including the landlord-friendly state ranking I'm going to walk you through in a few minutes. And subscribe, because next Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a deep dive on short-term rentals, including how Idaho's new House Bill 583 preemption law changes the short-term rental investing landscape for anyone in the Pacific Northwest. Now, let me put a buy and hold in numbers, all hypothetical, of course, just for illustration purposes only. But say you're a W-2 professional. You want to add rental income to your portfolio without becoming a project manager. You find a turnkey rental in a landlord-friendly Midwest market. Now, acquisition, we'll say your purchase price is around $220,000. Property's already rented at $1,850 per month on a 12-month lease. Your down payment's going to be about $44,000. Your loan amount's going to be about $176,000. Closing costs is going to be about $6,000. Your cash to close is going to be about $50,000. Now, mark monthly economics. So your rent is going to be at $1,850. Principal and interest on 7.25. You're on a $176,000 loan. You're looking at $1,201. Property taxes, we'll say 0.8% annually. So you're looking at $147. Insurance, you're looking at about $115 a month. Property management, you're looking at about $185 a month, or about $185. Now, maintenance reserves, you're looking at 8% of the rent, so $148. Okay, vacancy reserve, you're looking at about another $148, but right about 8%. So monthly expenses is actually $19.44. Net cash flow is actually negative $94. Wait, hold on here. The property is losing $94 a month. Is that a bad deal? Not necessarily. And here's what actually happens over the full fold. Now, let me show you the total return in 1 year. Cash flow, negative $1,128. Principal buy downs right about $2,000. Appreciation is about $7,700. Tax savings from depreciation, and we'll assume right about the 24% tax bracket at about $2,150. So total year one return is actually $10,700. Now, return on the invested $50,000 is actually 21.4%. That's a pretty good ROI. Now, by year 5, rents have grown roughly 15%. Now rent is right around $2,130. Property cash flow flips to $180 positive. By year 10, your cash flow is comfortably around $400 to $600 per month, and the property has appreciated to roughly about $310,000. This is the buy and hold pattern. Marginal or slightly negative cash flow at acquisition, growing to a strong positive cash flow over time, while equity compounds silently in the background. Investors who fixate on year one cash flow miss the point of the strategy entirely. Now, if you find a deal that cash flows positively from day one, you better take it, especially in the landlord-friendly states that we're about to cover. Don't reject a solid buy and hold, though, in a strong market, because your year one's going to be a wash or slightly negative on the front side of it. Look at that year 10 total. Make sure you calculate all 4 engines into your math so you can get your true ROI on the year. Now, the part every buy and hold YouTube guru out there skips because it's uncomfortable is the tenant risk. A great tenant makes buy and hold the easiest investment strategy on earth. A bad tenant can cost you 2 years of cash flow, tens of thousands in legal fees, and thousands more in property damage. This is not a hypothetical warning. It happens to real estate investors every year. And if you own rentals long enough, it's going to happen to you as well. 3 bad types of tenant scenarios that you need to underwrite for. Type 1, non-payment. A tenant just stops paying rent. In a tenant-friendly state, the eviction process can take 6 to 12 months. That is 6 to 12 months of paying your mortgage out of your own pocket while the tenant lives there for free. On a $2,000 a month rental, a 9-month eviction costs you $18,000 in lost rent plus $3,000 to $6,000 in legal fees. Now, there are insurance policies to get you covered on that. You can get 12 months worth of stop loss payments. You can get that stuff kind of covered in your policies. It just increases, guess what? Your net overhead. Type 2, property damage. Tenant destroys the property, holes in the walls, damaged fixtures, hoarding, pet damage. Sometimes worse, security deposits rarely cover more than a fraction of the actual damage. Landlord insurance covers some scenarios, but not tenant negligence, right? Budget so $5,000 to $15,000 of repair exposure per bad tenant incident. Type 3, professional tenants. People who know exactly how to game the system. They know the eviction laws. They know how to file bogus hospitality complaints. They know how to string out court dates. In tenant-friendly states, professional tenants can occupy your property for 18 months rent-free while you legally try to remove them. How to underwrite for tenant risk. Tenant screening, it's not optional. You need full credit checks. You need employment verification, income verification, 3 times the rent minimum, previous landlord references, not just the current one. That is likely a to be biased, and criminal background checks. If your property management manager does not do all 3 of these, you need to fire him and hire somebody new. Now, set aside 3 to 6 months of principal, interest, taxes, and insurance in a tenant risk reserve fund just per property, not for general reserves, not for maintenance reserves, but for tenant risk reserves, money that you never touch unless you're evicting somebody. Now, landlord insurance, including lost rents coverage. Okay, we just talked about this a little bit. Standard rental insurance covers property. Lost rents covers 12 months. Sometimes it could be 6 months if you want a little cheaper policy. During lost income during an eviction or major repair. So do not skip this. This is usually $300 to $600 per year, and it is the difference between a survivable bad tenant and a portfolio destroying one. And most importantly, buy in states where the law protects you when things go wrong. This is what brings us to our next segment. Not all states are created equal for rental property owners. The same tenant screw up that cost you 30 days and $1,000 in Texas can cost you 12 months and $25 in California. Location isn't just about appreciation. It's also about just about appreciation and cash flow. It's about your legal rights when the tenant goes bad. Here are some states that are consistently rank at the top for the landlord protections in 2026 based on eviction speed, rental control preemption, security deposit flexibility, and property tax burden. Tier 1 are going to be the best states for landlords in 2026. Texas. Texas has a 3-day pay or quit notice. Full eviction process typically takes about 21 to 28 days statewide. Rental control preemption. There's no security deposit cap, no cause termination requirement. Now, the downside is 1.4 to 1.8% of property taxes, which eat into your cash flow, and rising insurance costs, especially on the coastal metros. But overall, when it comes to your rights, they give you a lot for a landlord. Okay, Florida, they have a 3-day pay or quit, statewide rental control preemption, no deposit cap, strong squatter laws, which was updated in 2024 and holding in 2026. Property tax is actually around 0.98%. Insurance is a pain point for these individuals, especially in the coastal areas, running to about 2 to 4 times the national average. Oof. Idaho and Utah, they both are tied at the top of the Griffin's funding 2026 landlord-friendly markets. Now, rent controlled preempted and no just cause requirement. 3 to 5 days of non-payment notices. Property taxes are around 0.5%, which is why these two beat Texas on the composite scores, because the rent or the taxes are a fraction of Texas. For anyone in the Pacific Northwest or Mountain West, these two states are worth serious look. Georgia and Alabama. Georgia has fast depository proceedings and no just cause. Alabama has a 7-day non-payment notice, no rent control, and a 0.37% effective property tax. That's the lowest in the top tier. Go Alabama. Indiana, Ohio, Tennessee, Arizona. They all round out the top 10. All feature short eviction timelines, no rental controls, no deposit caps, and reasonable property taxes. Now, tier 2 are the states to be cautious in. You're going to have Colorado, Washington, Oregon, New Jersey, Illinois. These states have introduced meaningful tenant protections in the last 5 years. Longer eviction timelines, just cause requirements in some cities, deposit restrictions. You can still make money as a landlord here, but Big but your operational overhead is higher, and your legal exposure is the big one. It's greater. Tier 3, these are the states where being a landlord in 2026 is genuinely difficult. California, New York, Massachusetts, Maryland, Hawaii all have rental control in many cities. I would also add, I forgot to add Pennsylvania to that list. I would stay away from these states. These are states that I recommend to avoid. If you're looking to get into rentals, these are not the states to do so. These states have introduced meaningful tenant protections in the last 5 years. Longer eviction timelines, just cause requirements in some cities, deposit restrictions. You can still make money as a landlord here, but your operational overhead is way higher and your legal exposure is way greater. Oh, ah, I skipped around. Okay, rental control in many cities of the eviction process that I kind of went to tier 2. I read if you couldn't catch there. Okay, so we'll hit tier 3 again. California, New York, Massachusetts, Maryland, Hawaii, Pennsylvania. Rental control in many cities eviction processes that routinely run 6 to 18 months. Just cause termination requirements. They have strong tenant advocacy networks that will fight every single eviction. Don't want to be in that area. I do not tell investors to avoid these states entirely because cash flow can exist in specific submarkets, but go with your eyes open and budget legal cost and vacancy reserves at 2 times what you've budgeted in landlord-friendly states. My honest takes, if you build in your portfolio, build your first 5 properties as an out-of-state investor. Prioritize top tier states: Idaho, Utah, Texas, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Indiana. The legal environment matters more than the extra 0.5% in appreciation. I'm not going to tell you to avoid those states, but I would greatly reconsider being in those areas as a landlord. Now, the operational question: do you hire a property management company or do you self-manage your properties? The real answer depends on where your property is, how many properties you own, and what your value and how you value your time. Standard property management fees in 2026. Monthly management fees are 8 to 12% of collected rent, typically 10%. You're looking tenant placement and leasing fees, 50 to 100% of the first month's rent, sometimes more in a full year lease. Renewal fees, often $200 to $500 or 25% of the first month's rent. Maintenance markup. Some property managers mark up contractor invoices 10 to 20%. Setup fees, technology fees, inspection fees, and another $100 to $500 in a one-off cost per year. On a $2,000 monthly rent, expect to pay roughly about $2,400 to $3,500 per year in total. Now, the pros of hiring a property manager: 1, distance of freedom. Your rentals anywhere in the country. If your local market doesn't cash flow, buy in a landlord-friendly Midwest market, tier 1 or 2, tier 1 preferably. But let the property management run it. All right. This isn't the entire premise of a turnkey out-of-state investing. Tier 2, a 3 a.m. problem outsourcing. Broken water heater at midnight. Tenant locked out on Saturday. Furnace failure in January. A good property manager handles all of it while you're sleeping. For a lot of investors, this alone is worth 10% of the rent. Now, legal compliance. Fair housing rules, security deposit accounting, notice requirements, habitat. Wow. Making sure the homes are livable. If I could, can't say that word today. PMs know, property managers know the local rules and they stay on the changes. Now, as a self-manager, you're on the hook for every legal misstep. I do want to throw in a disclosure here. We'll get into it after the finish the segment. Okay. Professional tenant screening. Good property managers have vetted screening processes credit reports, background checks, and databases of previous bad tenants. They catch the problems that you would generally miss. Number 5, efficiency at scale. If you are at 5 or more properties, the operational load of self-management well exceeds what most investors can maintain while also holding a W-2 or running a business. The cons of hiring a property manager. One's got to be the cost, right? That's probably the most important. You're hitting 10% of your rent plus replacement fees. That's going to be replacement fees is significant. On our hypothetical $1,850 a month rental, property managers are going to cost you roughly 60% of your total cash flow. Now, your number 2, say variable quality. Great property managers are worth every single dollar. Bad property managers will destroy your investment. They'll place bad tenants. They'll fill just to fill a vacancy fast. They'll mark up maintenance. They'll ignore your calls. They'll skip inspections. They have extremely bad paperwork. They can't really track everything. They lose everything. So if you switch, they can't show you where everything actually was, where your dollars are allocated. I've seen some bad property managers. You need to be very careful when you're auditing or looking for a new one. It's best to do research and find local referrals. Call realtors. Call reputable realtors. The gap between the best and worst private money or property managers in the market, they are very enormous. 3, less control over less decisions. The property manager makes the day-to-day calls, for which contractor to hire, to repair which repair to be approved. If they make a bad call, guess what? You're paying for it. 4, harder to spot property issues. When you self-manage, you walk the property regularly. When a property manager manages the property for you, you might not see the property for years. So slow deterioration goes unnoticed when it becomes major, until it becomes major. Now, when you hire a property manager, you own out-of-state properties, basically. It's kind of basically non-negotiable. You value your time at more than $75 an hour. You have 3 or more properties. You're a W-2 professional who can't be on call. Your local market has enough distance from your home to make hands-on management and efficient, roughly 30 minutes drive. When to self-manage, you own 1 to 2 local properties within a reasonable drive. You have flexible time and enjoy the operational side. You want to maximize your cash flow in the early years. You want to learn the operational side before scaling. Your properties are in the same complex or neighborhood where efficiency scales for you. How to hire a good property manager. Ask for 3 references of current owners with more than a 2-year relationship with them. Ask what percentage of their doors turned tenants in the last 12 months. Higher than 30%. That's a red flag. Now ask what their average vacancy period is between tenants. Over 30 days? That's a red flag. Ask if they mark up maintenance invoices. Read their management agreement carefully, especially in the section on inspection frequency and reporting. Interview at least 3 property managers before you choose one. A great property manager is one of the highest leverage relationships you'll build as a rental investor. A bad one is the most expensive mistake that you're going to make. 4 mistakes that turn passive buy and hold into a second job or a losing investment. Mistake 1, buying in tenant hostile states because appreciation looked great. Right, the year 5 appreciation numbers, they don't matter if your first bad tenant makes takes 12 months to evict. Legal environment beats appreciation over holding period every single time. Mistake 2, skipping reserves. New investors deploy their entire down payment fund into the property and have nothing left for the first surprise. Make sure that you have a standard reserve requirement of 6 months of principal, taxes, and insurance minimum, right, per property. Plus, you want to make sure that you have a tenant risk reserves, as we discussed earlier. If you can't fund both, don't buy the property yet. Mistake number 3, bad property manager selection. Hiring the cheapest property manager or the one that returned your calls, or the one that is recommended by the seller. The property manager you choose will make or break the investment. Spend the full week interviewing options before you decide. Mistake number 4, emotional decision making on tenants. Feeling bad for a tenant who's late. Extending payment plans without documentation. Skipping proper eviction procedures because you don't want confrontation. The tenant who's late 3 months in a row is not going to catch up. Start the eviction on day 6 of the notice period every single time. Emotional landlording is one of the most expensive mistakes in the real estate investing. And I'm going to add that to a reason why you need to have a property manager. There are some really nice investors out there that I've talked to that fall for the sympathy cause. This is your business. This is your future. You need to make money on the combined 4 engines, right? You do not need to be sitting and holding everybody's hand and falling for every sad story that comes across, because you're going to hear a lot. You're going to hear a lot, and there's always going to be a reason, and they're never going to catch up. They're going to leave you high and dry, and they're going to disappear. Evict them early. Get a property manager. If you are one of those emotional investors, it's going to save you a lot of money, and it's going to make you a lot more over time. Buy and hold is the right strategy for you if you have a stable income source outside of real estate. W-2 business, professional practice, retirement income. Buy and hold generates modest cash flow early, and it works best when you don't need to pay your bills today. You have a 15-year plus investment horizon. The 4 wealth engines compound most powerfully over long holds. Selling a buy and hold in year 3 destroys most of those returns. Commit to at least a 15-year hold on these properties, or just don't start, or find a different strategy. You value your passivity over the yield. You'd rather earn 12% while spending 2 hours on a month on a 20 rather than earning 20% working 20 hours a week. Buy and hold trades some return for real hands-off ownership. You build long-term wealth without becoming a full-time operator. This is the strategy for the physician, the sales professional, the engineer, the business owner who wants real estate in their portfolio without letting it consume their weekends. Now, buy and hold is not the strategy for you if you need cash flow to replace your current income within 5 years. Look to the 3-in-1 or the short-term rental instead. You want to leverage aggressively. The BRRRR or Fix-to-Keep will get you further faster. Now, if you don't want to have 6 months of PITI and reserves per property, or you don't have that, right? You're not willing to invest in professional management or professional quality self-management. Now, bottom line is this: buy and hold is not the sexy strategy. Let's be very blunt about that. It is the strategy that builds most real estate wealth, though. Modest cash flow, silent principal paydown, long-term appreciation, powerful tax advantages, all compounding on the same property for 20 to 30 years. Now, the keys to making it work in 2026 are DSCR loans to qualify without personal income drama. Landlord-friendly states so that the laws protect you. Professional property management, if you are at scale, if you're one of those emotional investors that we talked about, or if you're out of state. Real reserves for the tenant risk that will eventually find you. Find a 15-year minimum time horizon so that the wealth engines have room to compound. Comment turnkey below for the underwriting worksheet and the landlord-friendly state ranking. And if you are looking at a specific out-of-state turnkey rental and you want a DSCR pre-quote before you make the offer, call me or text me at 208-215-9936 or visit openlanefunding.com so I can get you guys helped. This is Robert, or I'm Robert with Open Lane Funding. I'll see everybody here on Friday. Thank you, everyone.